Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. Today is August 29th already, my goodness. And this is the level 1 presentation. It would correspond with lesson 11 in recorded lessons. And I invite and encourage everyone who wishes to delve further to actually take the recorded lessons. And you get, I think, even more meat and potatoes, even more nourishment in your lasagna than what I can give you in the 1-hour presentation here. Because I have my list, and I'm going to make sure I get to all of my important points. And also, I'm sure there are always things that I forget or points that I gloss over. So the nice thing is with the recorded lessons, you can watch them and you can rewind them and watch them again. You can even download them to your computer if you want to and save them just in the same way that you could save like a hardcover book and then you could have it to refer back to. So this presentation is all about aspects of the Merkaba. And so I already did a presentation about the Merkaba, or the star tetrahedron, for the advanced level of this semester. So I'm not rewinding, but what I'm doing is for the beginning understanding of what this shape is and what its profundity is, I want to focus on the third feature. So I have a video that I will link to that is the 3 main things you can do with a Merkaba. First of all, what does Merkaba mean? Is this New Age? Is this a particular religion? No, it is not New Age. No, it is not a particular religion. It is like saying, what is the shape of your eyeball and how does it emit light and what is going on? Hello, Joe. I love it to see you. I'm so happy that you're tuning in. Merkaba literally means light body vessel. Don't be afraid because it has the word Kaaba in it, because I know, and now that I'm more culturally sensitive in this world, I understand that everyone's like, oh no, Saturn's cube, the Kaaba, the black box, we hate it, it's limiting us, we hate 3-dimensionality. So I'm not a member of a secret society, I'm not teaching you a bunch of bull. What you have to understand is that the Merkaba is like a basic anatomical feature of your body, that in the antediluvian sophisticated worldwide culture known as Atlantis, everybody learned about it, just the way like a little kid in this time and place learns how to look both ways before you cross the street and tie your shoes and 1 + 1 = 2. It's like the basic building block for having an energy body, being adept in the world of, let's say, whatever psychic, telepathic experiences, and being able to navigate the world effectively. So it's not from a particular culture. Vestigial traces of this information were held in trust by various different cultures on Earth's surface after the degradation of the human genome and like fracturing of human society and loss of knowledge. And this information was held, when I say in trust, that's like when you're not in a condescending way, like you're too young to have this information. It's more like if the information had been freely disseminated, it would have been suppressed by the various factions that are like the opposite, the opposition, that do not want you to learn how to transform into a higher dimensional state. So those beings that run secret societies, occult societies, hidden societies, whatever you would like to call them, they have held this information, and to drink more, as if it is proprietary. Like, no, that is only for special people. That's not for you. Hold on a minute. And it's not just for special people. It is for anyone who has a body, who has anatomy, who wants to do this. It's not just for special people. It's not just for people who are Jewish, because people recognize the Star of David political and religious symbol that is on the flag of Israel looks very similar to these star tetrahedron shapes. It's not just for Jewish people, and it's not affiliated with the State of Israel or its policies or the Jewish religion or anything about the Jewish religion either. So there were traces of the Merkaba that were kept alive in ancient Egypt, in the Himalayas, over in Nepal and Tibet, India, areas where Hinduism flourished. Everybody had a different puzzle piece, and the puzzle pieces were all kept secret because they didn't want all of their information to be suppressed. So pretty much in the past 2 decades or so, all of that hidden esoteric information has come to light, and all the puzzle pieces are now available for everyone to be able to effectively use, because now is the time when you actually need all of those puzzle pieces and to be able to fit them together. So for many thousands of years, it was kind of like, ho-hum, like we're just waiting, keep the embers alive, but it's not quite time to have a raging bonfire. Now it is time to have a raging bonfire. So it's time to breathe life back into those embers and give them effective fuel. And so that's why these teachings about the Merkaba have come back into the forefront. yes, you should be skeptical about anything that is a limited teaching. Like when I've taught everyone about the flower of life, I've shown you how the flower of life is giving a view that is like a slice, a two-dimensional slice of a three-dimensional object. In fact, let's do that right now. We'll do a little bit of recap. It's funny, Pedro, you made this comment that's so perceptive. Wonderful. Pedro says, don't worry, we won't accuse you of cultural appropriation. I think that's the funniest thing in the world. Like this, I mean, like I'm such a cultural outsider. When I see people arguing about cultural appropriation, I'm just laughing. So that is just super funny. And you're clearly very tuned in to some of the thoughts that I think on a regular basis. Yes. Yeah, because here's a good one. If anyone ever accuses you of cultural appropriation or whatever it is, if you're wearing pants, like literally, like, two-legged pants on your lower half of your body, and you're not Celtic, you are guilty of cultural appropriation, because good Romans wear tunics. They don't wear pants like barbarians from the north. So yes, that's the best comeback that I've had for any kind of cultural appropriation kind of criticisms. So let's talk about this shape and how it relates to the flower of life. So I know this is like the simplest little sculpture. I made it out of kids' clay. It's not fancy. This shape is the negative space of this shape. I hold this shape up all the time. You guys are now experts of this class. You know that this is a double torus for the shape of one chakra or energy center of your body. And you can see, where I'm wiggling my finger, there's like a negative space. And negative space does not mean bad or wrong or evil. Negative does mean like there's a place to put, it's volumetric. That where do I put the water in my cup? In the negative space of my cup. There's nothing wrong with that place of my cup. It's good. It's made to hold water. So the negative space of this sculpture are these areas here that are, within the boundaries of the membranes. And if we were to do a volumetric reverse of what this sculpture is, you would come up with this little orange sculpture. So if I hold it up just right, you can see those front four lobes correspond with the four lobes of this shape. But if we're looking at those four lobes, we're really only looking at the front half of a sculpture. So I understand that we're all using a camera right now to see on this lovely technological contraption that is giving us monocular vision. I'm squinting my eyes so that you understand, like we don't have a binocular camera. So the camera is already giving you a flattened version of this sculpture, but we would have four lobes in the front rather, but then also four lobes in the back, which is what I'm holding on to with my hands. So this shape actually has 8 lobes in it. And this shape relates to our non-physical presence. That's a big takeaway here. And when we start to get into hexagons, the shape of carbon atoms, and transforming into your diamond body, which is known in the Far East, like the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, as your Vajrayana body. Let's write that word out. Oh, and let me get my little magic trackpad. I know I'm jumping all around. Hold on a second. Let's write down Vajrayana so that everyone knows what I'm talking about. Cool. Let me make my face bigger. There you go. Now you can see my face. Vajrayana bodies. This comes from, the Himalayan region of the world. And what that means literally is diamond body. And in the sense of diamond being indestructible and a crystalline format. So let's also talk about what a crystal is. In a regular mineral that is not crystalline, you have all of these different molecules that are just kind of smushed together, just mushed in all sorts of various different orientations. When you have a crystal, what you have is a tessellation, and the word tessellation, we'll go to tessellation, I'll write that out for you, means tiling. And tiling means there's no empty space around it. It's puzzle pieces that all fit together perfectly. Tessellation means tiling. And yes, it absolutely relates to tesseract. So what we're talking about is the shape of the cellular structure of our body. And I did that in the lesson about the flower of life. So jumping around a lot, back to how this shape relates to the flower of life. The flower of life has 6 lobes that go around kind of like petals on a flower. And this is what I'm talking about, the esoteric societies that would like to keep you dumbed down like sheeple, as the saying goes. And so they give you partial information. So this is just like what happens if you have grandma who makes a special strudel or something like that, and you say to grandma, hey, before you die, please pass on your strudel recipe. And she's like, oh dear, it's no big deal. You just throw some flour and some water and some salt and some sugar together, and you kind of mix it up and roll it out and pop some apples on. That's how you do it. And then you think like, oh good, I've really got the recipe. But grandmother did not impart to you the really important techniques in terms of making strudel really strudel, which what it actually has to do with how many times you beat the dough, how you let it rest properly, how you have to roll it out on a big giant table so that it's paper thin, and brush the surface with butter, and then fold it again and again and again. What I'm trying to say is there's a lot of technique that grandmother intentionally did not give back to you, because grandmother was cruel and heartless, and also had ego issues and didn't want you to actually know how to make a strudel on your own. So the grandma, the cruel, heartless grandma, who's not actually so nice in this story, is actually synonymous with these horrible secret societies that are like, oh, we are the only strudel makers in town. We're not going to give you the real recipe. We'll give you the fake, dumbed down recipe. So they have allowed humanity to understand or access information about the flower of life that is limited. This is my issue with this. On the one hand, it's been popularized. Hey, it's like spray painted like on t-shirts and hats and yoga pants. So lots of people are being exposed to it, but they're being exposed to the limited version of it. So let's count the lobes of this shape. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in the back here where I'm holding it, you can't see with my hands, 5, 6, 7, 8. I like to do that count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've got 8 lobes. So 8 relates to octa, like an octahedron, and 6 relates to hexa, hexagons. Well, I'll draw it all out for you. So the hexagonal shape of the flower of life has 6 petals that go around it. So first we understand, and you can see this in all my paintings. Look, here's one right here on my shirt over here. The front portion of this sculpture is what I'm always painting. I'm showing you a cross section of what's going on here. So all of these shapes have actually 8 lobes. And it's essentially in a cube format. Oh no, it's Saturn's cube. No, don't worry. We're not just giving you more bars on the cage. We're giving you the actual strudel recipe. I'm giving you the actual strudel recipe so that you can actually make the strudel of freedom and have an expanded experience of being here. And then it won't be so hellish or uncomfortable or filled with suffering. If we took this cube-oriented shape, and we'll count the sides of the cube, all right? The cube has 6 sides, but this has 8 lobes, but it has 6 sides. So you're beginning to see there's an interrelationship in numbers between 6 and 8. Side 1, side 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Want me to do it again so that we can understand that this is a cube? Side 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, all right? Now what I'm gonna do is hold this cube on a diagonal. And because we are using the monocular vision created by the computer camera itself, you can see, so first I'm going to show you the 6-petaled shape. That is what is often presented as the flower of life. Let's count it all around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Those 6 radial spokes. The camera is doing the job of giving you monocular vision, but you can still perceive there is a lobe that I'm touching with my pointer here that is pointed towards the camera. And if I hold this to the side, what? There's a lobe that is right there that I'm holding with my hand. So what you have is another plane, another axis of this formation. If you're looking at the regular flower of life information, you're looking at a slice that does not include this axis, and that axis, that no other dimension, that additional dimension, is analogous to the technique of how to actually roll out the strudel and eat the sweet strudel of freedom. And it's also analogous to what is required to create your body into a crystalline structure as opposed to merely being a mishmashed molecular structure, all right? I have lots of wonderful images that I want to share with you. I also need to drink more water. Yeah, sorry that I always get so thirsty. Okay, go to my images. They're all meticulously organized. This is going to be great. Okay, so this is one of the first things. I didn't draw this image. I got it from a scientific kind of explanatory web page so that you know that I'm legit. All right, and get to an annotation. These are different representations of the molecule that is carbon. And carbon is one of the atoms that comprise a large portion of our living biological, metabolizing cellular structure. And carbon has 6-sided molecules there. And if you can see that, and I'm gesturing, so I got my annotation here. I'm going to highlight it for you, and I hope it's big enough for you to see on your screen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is a hexagon. So a good mnemonic device for what is how to remember how many sides a hexagon has. It's got that X sound in it, and X sounds just like 6. So what I just did was I drew a hexagonal outline. And before I get more into the different forms of molecular structure of carbon atoms, like molecules are when many atoms stick together, so you'll get what I'm talking about. I want to talk about this little drawing over here because we have this system of perception now that has been ingrained or trained into us because of many thousands of years, not thousands, many hundreds of years at this point of perspective. That we're used to looking at one-point perspective. We're used to looking at, like, we're all looking at a screen that is a flat screen, but literally, if you're looking at the room that I'm in, you can see the lines of one-point perspective. Like, here's one line, I'm tracing it on your screen. There we go, I'm tracing it on the screen. That is one line of one-point perspective. It is running on this diagonal axis where I'm orienting my pointer. Like, you can see the lines converging at one point. We're used to looking into this as if you're looking through a window that has depth, is what I'm trying to say. So if I draw lines on this little red representation down here, if I draw these just as radial spokes like this, kind of like, remember that old game called Trivial Pursuit? And it had these little game pieces that had these little, like, pie-shaped wedges. So if I draw those white lines, then you look at this and you're like, oh, look, that's a flat little game piece that's got pie-shaped wedges in it. But you're looking at it like it's something flat, but not as something that has depth. And now if I just take away that selection of lines and I just draw my lines slightly differently, then you'll see it as a cube. Look at that, everyone, the magic of perspective. The same exact perimeter, but what has changed is you have added the additional dimension with your system of perception. So this is the basic leap that we're going to take in this class. In order to make the sweet strudel of freedom, you need to change your perception from a flattened perception into a higher dimensional perception. And this is also analogous to getting off the hamster wheel. You're not just running in place. Being able to create a Merkaba for protection is great, and you're not supposed to just be like cycling in place. You're supposed to be able to actually put your bicycle on a road and actually go somewhere with your bicycle. Let me drink more water though. But this form of transportation though is not merely for like little chores or mundane tasks that you have to do. I used the example last week or whatever of returning a library book. Then I'm like, I don't know if people still return library books. But the idea of doing a little chore around town, like I'll just hop in my interdimensional Merkaba vehicle and go on down to the store to get some milk to make my coffee and then hop on back. Like, this is the most circuitous and laborious and arduous way of being able to just hop on down to the corner store or whatever. This is literally molecularly rearranging your entire body in order to transport yourself through the fabric of time, space, and consciousness. So it's not just for a little lark down the street. This is for like doing something for real. So in order to make this, okay, blah, 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 jumping around. What the Tibetans from the Far East call your Vajrayana body. This is your indestructible body. And it relates to, I'll get to your comment on it, very interesting. It relates to our biological cellular structure. So in previous lessons, I've spoken about the flower of life, and it looks kind of like this, 6-petaled shape, right? And that is part of the initial explosion, but not violent explosion, but expansion explosion of cellular life from the moment of conception. Like, you get that conception going in the middle, and then all of these wonderful cells start to exponentially grow and cluster in these wonderful patterns that create the flower of life patterns. They create three-dimensional patterns, not merely two-dimensional patterns. So now let's go back to a red color, and let me bring your attention back to this little drawing with the pencil over here. So carbon has atoms that are shaped like hexagons, and you can see the one that I highlighted there. And this, we're all familiar with this. You've used pencils. This is a normal thing to do in this society. This is graphite. And graphite is made out of many, many flat hexagonal molecules. Molecules are stuck together atoms that are stacked up in this kind of format, like many flat plates stacked up together. Just like if you stack up your dinner plates to put them in the cabinet. That is how each one of these arrangements of molecules is stacked up. So it's the same exact atomic shape, which is a hexagon. That's this shape right down here. But it has a different molecular shape. It's put together in a different format. So the least organized of all of these formats of carbon is coal, where like here, like you got some good organization here. Your dishes are neatly stacked in the cupboard. Imagine if you didn't stash the dishes in the cupboard. Imagine if all the plates were broken into different pieces and you just shoved the debris into the cupboard and kind of slammed the door closed. That would be coal. And coal is just lots and lots of carbon atoms, kind of mishmash, mushed all together without with very little levels of organization. And the next level up is graphite, where we have these, kind of plate structures that are stacked together. And this is what gives graphite a couple of its qualities as a mineral. It's very slippery. My thing down, you can kind of see in my thumbnail. The plates slide together like this, so it's very slippery. So when you are writing with a pencil on a piece of paper, you're actually making those little plates slip off onto the piece of paper, and that's what gives you that sensation of it actually flowing, which is, if you've ever used charcoal, it's a different feeling, and charcoal is more analogous to, like a coal, kind of the way that the molecules are disarranged. So the quality of graphite that has like the ability to decrease friction. It can be used as a lubricant. It's like a dry lubricant. So, okay, we've got coal as carbon, we've got graphite as carbon in our pencils, and then we've got diamond right down here. And diamond is the crystalline structure, the tessellated structure. So what happens in order to achieve this completely new qualities is all of the molecules have to be perfectly arranged. And this over here is an example of how those molecules are perfectly arranged. And also, let me go see if I can show you this. Good, look at that. This is another diagram. I did not draw it. It's a fancy scientific diagram that shows how that third-dimensional structuring of carbon molecules, how they all fit together perfectly. And the idea of a tessellation is that it's puzzle pieces with no empty spaces. That is what a crystalline structure is. So begin to relate that understanding to the understanding of your body and your cellular structure. And I think I should go back to my face. Hold on a minute here, and we'll come back to these images too. I have lots more wonderful images to show you. So many times in this class, I've told you about, like, there's synthetic replicants, there's cloning, there's artificially synthetically created bodies that are now being created through technology. And the technology is exotic technology that's being deployed on the surface of this planet, but it does not originate from this planet, and it affects life forms on this planet. So I'm always cautioning people, like, don't ever give up your own real body that you got from that conception. When I make my hand go like this, it's like, here's the moment of conception, and your cellular structure begins to radiate outward from there. Not that I'm a scientist about the Big Bang, but kind of like the idea of the Big Bang, that you started with a little tiny thing that is now expanding outward, and that every single cell in your body, in your present state, relates to that initial moment of expansion. And that's why, like, whatever, if you cut your hand and then you grow skin back again, which is amazing that we can do that because we're miracle makers, and we're like divine embodied little fragments of God. The scar, you have a scar because the cells that grow are not growing according to that perfectly arranged pattern of all of the cells that started radiating outward from their initial conception. They came a little bit late to the game. They're a patch. They got put in after the fact. So this is, we can also understand decrepitude aging, not merely moving through time, but decrepitude as you become chronologically older, as relating to no longer being able to maintain that perfectly formed cellular structure as the integument that ties together cells. Like you have cells, and then there is extracellular integument. That's like the support system that gives the structure to your cells. That all starts to degrade. So instead of having perfectly organized cellular structure, they start to be a little bit, mushed down over here or too contracted over here. The entire pattern begins to be degraded. All of this in order to tell you that what we're trying to do, or the goal here in terms of getting off the hamster wheel, because everyone's like, no, we're imprisoned here, we hate it here. Okay, so fine, you want to get off the hamster wheel. In order to do that, it means a rearrangement or refinement of your cellular structure of your body. And you can't be like, I hate having a body. No, you don't hate having a body. You hate having a body that is not perfectly arranged in terms of its cellular structure, and also in terms of its time structure, possibilities and probabilities, and get into that in level 2. So there is a way to reorganize your body cells and turn them into a perfectly tessellated structure, meaning all of the cells fit together perfectly with no space, just like if you're laying down tiles for your kitchen floor and they all fit in a perfect grid and there's no empty spaces. And that is how a diamond is created out of the molecules of carbon. So I'll go back to the picture of the diamond and you'll get what I'm talking about here. And also, this is why I'm like, don't ever just consent to be cloned or think that it's better to be cloned. There are like fancy celebrities that have been cloned because they don't understand that they're giving up a real diamond in honor of a cubic zirconia. If you clone your body, you're not getting that complete perfect structure, again, with provenance. And I described provenance, rather, as the story of where molecules and photons come from, that in your present body, like if you looked at a little tiny sample of your skin, you'd be able to say, well, it has this many molecules, and it has this energy level, it has this many photons that came from me and plants and animals that have converged there. And those photons came from the sun and the stars, and they're on a journey. And then eventually those photons will fly somewhere else. Like, your body has many, many layers of complexity that are not recognized by science that makes it more valuable as a physical embodied structure than anything that can be synthetically replicated. So yes, a great deal is lost in translation, just like going from a wonderful analog recording to a cold digital recording. All of the subtleties are lost, and then the more that you make the recordings, the worse and worse it gets. So this is why, no, please do not clone. Please do not consent to be cloned, even though I think it costs a lot of money, so I don't know if we'd be able to afford to do it, but you know what I'm talking about. Don't ever give up the diamond of your body that you have in order to have just a stupid cubic zirconium that is not very impressive at all. So now we're back to this. We've got these different stages of carbon, and let's also talk about what does it take in order to create this perfectly organized crystalline structure. Lots of heat and lots of pressure. So there is an organizational factor in bringing it up to high levels of heat and compressing it together that makes all of these molecules arrange themselves in a particular way. And I mean, we can come up with all sorts of allegories and say, like, that is what we are experiencing here in our earthly experience. Like, we're definitely, like that song, Under Pressure, we're definitely under pressure around here. So now I want to show you still shots of how those, annotate here, how these molecules over here begin to transform into this molecular arrangement over here. And all of this, be like, Aurora, why do I need to know this? How is this helping me on my journey? Let's say that learning about these allegories or analogies in the mineral realm, or the realm of chemistry, allows us to better understand our non-physical journey of pure consciousness. So each one of these images that I'm showing you comes from a still shot from a video that I enjoyed. Okay, so first we're going to start off with, I think this is the first one. You can see the plates, and I'll annotate. You can see the flat plates, and these are like the graphite structure, right? And what begins to happen when we start to transform and make sure I have them in the right order. Yeah, they start to kind of become curly like potato chips. Let me just check. I've got one more image to show you. Oh, wrong one. Make that one go down. Fiddling with technology, everyone. This one over here. That's the last one. Cool. So this is the first one. Not to drive you crazy. They are like, not even like potato chips. They have no ridges. They're like flat potato chips. They're not fancy ridged potato chips, okay? So those are the flat layers of carbon that would be known as graphite. Then as more molecular arrangement happens, this is what I wanted to show you. These little guys, these little flat planes begin to become ridgy, like ridged potato chips. I hope you can see my red line that I'm drawing there. They start to bend. Like instead of a flat piece of paper, now you have begun to fold that flat plane of paper to begin to have a ridged surface. And that is exactly like what I've been saying to everyone. To go from being a essentially two-dimensional being that is stuck to the flat plane of time, and to begin to think of yourself as a little ant that can either jump up and over any obstacle or fold the plane of time, space, and consciousness to you. You can either jump to it or bring it to you. This is that same basic understanding, a little ant that begins to fold the surface of time so that now it's got ridges, like rigid potato chips. And now, I want to go back to here, go back to here, do your thing. Oh, it was working so perfectly. Come on, it was doing so perfectly. This is like, there we go, good. You guys get it. You know what I'm talking about, dealing with technology here. Wait, where's the other picture? One more picture, it's right down here. There's the third one. What eventually happens is, now I'll highlight again. All right, so here is one of the flat planes that's been turned into ridged, bumpy, convoluted. And here's one of the other ones down here. So we brought it into another dimension by adding ridges, by adding folds to it. And then the other thing is putting in these like vertical columns, these vertical support struts. And as I'm putting them in, you can see, wait a minute, that is making more hexagons. So we still have that basic hexagonal shape. But what we have done is rearranged all of the hexagons into a new format. And that new format has completely different qualities. So whereas coal and graphite are opaque and very smeary, diamond is brilliant or perfectly clear, and it is hard. It's one of the hardest substances that we know about around here. So this is the challenge, the transition between your body as a disorganized set of carbon atoms, and we haven't even gotten into water molecules that are also hexagonal in shape, mostly. Your disorganized body that's not perfectly tessellated, and then transforming into your perfectly tessellated diamond body that would be considered indestructible. And indestructible would mean like no death, no disease, no aging, even though you might, age chronologically through time. You might move through time chronologically, but that does not mean that you have to become decrepit, lose your vitality, no longer be able to walk around, or walk in a diminished state, or any of the things that are associated with that so much in this time and place. So wait, I'm going to get into models of how to do this, and it's still shot from the animation, but I know that there's questions in the chat, so let me go to this. Okay, so that was interesting. Dominic is saying that lithium atom has 6 atoms. Perhaps, do you mean 6 electrons? I think that's what you mean in the outer shells. So yeah, they're one of the big takeaways is the number 6 and hexagonal forms relate to the molecular structure of this physical, corporeal material world that we're in. And so 6 is material world. 8 and octa, that is the non-physical world of pure time or pure energy or pure consciousness, or however we would like to define it. So we are creating an interrelationship between our physical body. I'm not saying to anyone, I'm just being super, super clear here. You don't got to get rid of your physical body. You got to transform your physical body. So this is why everyone is like, no, the body is a prison cell. It's so horrible to be here. I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be a prison cell. You have to transform it. And then it can be, very comfortable and function in a different way. You transform the carbon into a format so that now it is comfortable, moves through time in a different way. It's basically the intended way that it was supposed to move through time. So lots and lots of things are evidenced in the natural world that are hexagonal, like the honeycomb of bees and even the composite eye of bees. These are all based in hexagons. Water crystals, snowflakes that are all six-sided carbon atoms that we were just talking about and seeing in all the pictures. Just drinking more water here. 6 is a basic descriptor of the molecular realm that is like our body's cells. But we are not just the cell's body. So just like mean old grandma that only wants to give you a very small slice of information and not the whole bit of information about the strudel, science or, present Earth surface level science is also a very mean grandma. That's like, no, I'm not going to tell you everything or recognize all levels of reality. We're only going to examine the slice of reality known as the material world. And that world is based on these 60-degree angles. Wait, let me hold up my special thing. 60-degree angles. So each one of these is an equilateral triangle. And I've gone over this in the other class about Merkaba. Equilateral meaning each one of these sides has the same length. And each one of these angles is the same angle, and each one of these angles is a 60-degree angle. They all add up to 180 degrees. It's a triangle. You guys all just did math. These are the basis of the star tetrahedron. This is what Merkaba is, light body vessel, and it's made up of basically a star tetrahedron. Let me show you a picture. Let's go to a picture. This is a still shot from my animation that I will share the link in the description of this video. It didn't do its thing. Hold on a minute. Let's see if we can move things around. Get rid of this picture. Bear with me, everyone. I don't know why sometimes technology is very weird. Sometimes it works. Here we go. Now I hope you can see this picture properly. If you can't see it, tell me in the chat, but I hope you can see this picture properly. Still shot from the animation I did about the Merkaba. So in this animation, I go over these ideas very quickly. Number 1, the Merkaba can be used as an energetic immune system, like a rotating shield of energy that allows good stuff to come in. Good stuff is what you want. Good stuff is anything that's at the vibration of love. This is a tone. It's called love. You're eating love. You want the love to come in. And the love comes into your non-physical energy body through the vertices. Let's go to annotation. Can I annotate? Ow, it never works for me. Come on, do it. Do your thing. I can't do it. I'll point to it with my cursor. Where I'm waving my cursor, I hope you can see that. There is a place where the straight sides of the polygon come together and they form a vertex that is a receptive area of the shape. So anything that's a thought form or a piece of energy or a beam of light or whatever can come in through that place, like an aperture on the body. And then there are other aspects of that star tetrahedron that are flat faces, and they're more like mirrors or surfaces that energy can bounce off of. And what you do is you get this envisionment rotating around your physical form as a way of deflecting energy that you do not want to enter into you and bringing in or inviting in energy that you do want to have enter you. I hope I said that right with my words. Stuff you don't want stays out. Stuff you do want comes in. Just like a physical immune system, just like the physical epidermis. So we want to have beneficial microbes go in my tummy, help me digest my food. That is good. Pathogenic microbes, stay out of my body. I don't want to. So this is the first aspect of being able to envision the star tetrahedron. And then when you master that, then you can move up to manifestation, where you begin to understand. So we've got the upward-facing pyramid, the downward-facing pyramid. The pyramid is a tetrahedron, and 2 of them are tetrahedra. And downward-facing pyramid is receptive, like a cup, like a chalice, and the upward-facing pyramid is intentional or specific. And that this is a balance of these 2 aspects of self. This is a balance when you're doing this dance partnership with the cosmos. And we'll get into that in level 2 also, of how we're connected to the sun. It's a dance partnership. It's not only about you saying like, me, I want this, I want this, I want this. Sometimes it's also a little bit about chef's choice. because sometimes the chef in the kitchen of the fancy restaurant of life knows the best ingredients. It's like, oh, you think you want, pasta with red sauce? Well, there's actually something better on the menu today because I know what are the freshest ingredients, and what you actually want is, chicken piccata. So you should sometimes give the opportunity for chef's choice. So your specific desires are the upward pointing pyramid, and your receptivity to the cosmos and the stellar network giving you chef's choice is the downward facing pyramid, and making them both spin and achieving the correct rate of spin is like pressing run on your program, or it's like beginning the dance with your partner. And in this painting, in this still shot over here, I cannot find the annotation properly, but I'm just going to use my cursor. I'm bringing my cursor up and down the center of that person that is sitting there inside of the visualization. And you're spinning your Merkaba at the right rate when you get that line that is like a column of light that heads up and down your spine and connects this top vertex of the shape to this bottom vertex of the shape. And this bottom vertex basically connects to Earth, but Earth, not just the planet, Earth in the sense of the mundane realm of third dimensional, material objects, like the whole earthly realm. And this upper vertex connects you to the higher dimensional, less dense realm of pure consciousness. So, okay, we've gone through all of, oh yeah, I just got my annotation just as I press stop share. Gone through the two first things that you can do with your Merkaba, and those are also like staying in place. You're staying in time. When you do both of those things with your Merkaba, you are still in the present moment now. You're not wildly transporting yourself to some other far distant time or place. When you do that, here, go to the annotation. I just want the pen, good, annotate. In order to use this as an interdimensional vehicle, we need to do that flip-flop perception. Remember how I drew the outline of the hexagon? And then I said, hey, if I put in this line here, and this line here, you get a cube, because you have been trained in your perception to interpret that little sketch as a three-dimensional object, as opposed to a flat, little game piece that has pie slices in it. You got to do the same thing in order to get off the hamster wheel and eat the strudel of freedom with this star tetrahedron shape. So you have to pop forward into the next dimension by envisioning that this becomes an octahedron. Hexa to octa, 6 to 8. We're doing it, everyone. I just added in some more lines. And now I'm going to show you how this becomes an octahedron. And then I'll show you with my little foam core fancy little model how we do this. We're basically rearranging each individual equilateral triangle in this polygon into a new format. Just like we rearrange the flat, slippery molecules of graphite into a diamond. We add another dimension. We're rearranging the puzzle pieces of what we already have. You don't have to get new stuff. You have to rearrange the stuff that you've already got. Let's count out the sides in the octagon, octahedron that I just drew over here. So the first one is easy to see. Here's face 1. It's right in front of the figure. I'm scratching that with lots and lots of green stuff. Let's do face 2. This one over here on the side. And let's do face 3. This one over here on the side. And let's do face 4. Face 4 is behind the head of the figure. So that would be way back here in the back part. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And now let's do the faces on the bottom. You can see this one over here. This is in the front. That's 1. There's one on the side you can't see, so I'm just going to point an arrow to it. 2. There's another on the side you can't see. 3. And then there's one coming around the back that you also can't see. 4. So what we end up with is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 sides, 8 octa. 6 hexa into 8 octa. And this is why this is the least convenient way to go down to the corner store for some milk for your coffee, because you have to rearrange the format of your whole entire physical cellular structure in order to experience time differently, in order to exit the mundane description of physical reality and enter into a higher dimensional experience of physical reality. So, this is achieving greater levels of freedom, greater levels of maturity, and it is a very worthwhile endeavor. Like, this is what we're talking about. And again, this doesn't take money. You don't have to have a certain amount of money in your bank account to do this. You don't have to drink a magic elixir. Like, in order to interpret a hexagon as cute, do you have to drink a magic elixir? No. What do you have to do? You have to have a certain set of thoughts and expectations that control your perception. This is a journey of perception, and you're changing your own body. So I'm drinking more water. I'm going to drink a lot of water. A big part of this is understanding, first of all, you're allowed to do this, even though many secret societies want to be like, no strudel for you, no strudel for you, you're not allowed to do this. And when you start to do this, you might feel them. And you have to be like, I am allowed to make strudel. Like, this is something I know I'm allowed to do. So yeah, when you start to transform on a physical cellular level like this, there might be all of these programmed or implanted limitations. Like, you're not allowed to do that because of blah, blah, or because of blah, blah, or because of blah, blah. Mom and dad will approve. You're crazy. The government doesn't want you to do this. Religion doesn't want you to do this. Who do you think you are? Like, those are the basics of, anytime you start to do this maneuver with your body. So here are some affirmations I can give to you. This is your body that you laboriously cultivated as a little tiny fetus in your mama's womb. And you have successfully cultivated it to the point of adulthood. However, everyone's in my class. Well, there are some young people that tune in. But however old you are, you've cultivated for blah, blah many years. It's the only real estate you actually own in this world. It's not like saying, well, I'm going to get some gold or silver or plutonium and I'm going to do experiments with those molecules. Not that at all. These are your molecules. These are your molecules that you are allowed to do stuff with. And then also, when I teach about this, it's always taking responsibility, because this is like a culmination. It's like not only being a song player, it's being a songwriter in the band. And you want to play good music, you want to write good music. So this becomes being able to add another level of complexity, because what you're doing is you're moving from one time plane to another time plane, and you're able to go in between those areas. And it's not a flat plane. It's actually shaped like this. You're moving between different layers of the time field by doing this. So not the most efficient way to get milk from the store, but is the most efficient way to move through time and space non-locally and be able to experience expanded levels of awareness and interaction with other beings in other places. Okay, Pedro has a question. It says, traveling with the Merkaba and with the FRL is different? ? Is each meant for different types of travel? Wonderful question. Oh, and I'm going to do your other question that you asked me in the messenger in level 2. So yes, these are two separate things. Before I do the Flying Rainbow Lasagna as my daily practice, I do the Merkaba. And I actually started out just like a little kid in Atlantis. First I mastered the Merkaba, then I mastered the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. Because this, being able to create that initial, 2-star tetrahedron like this, and make them spin and do that envisionment, that's like creating a protective zone. It's like creating an art space where you can actually work. Like, hey, this is my studio, and I'm going to make some paintings right now, and everybody, stay out because I'm busy doing some stuff. And then this, I would say, is analogous to like the paintbrush that I use in the studio, where, okay, I've created my safe, protected space, and I told you sometimes it's like sweeping away the dust off of my desk with my bench brush. Sweep, sweep, sweep. I do my Merkaba. I make my place nice and clean. Now I'm ready to actually start innovating, coming up with new combinations of ideas and events and polygons and structures in time that lead to expanded realities. So when you're doing the Merkaba, you do not have to do that level, like I was saying in manifestation, if you're using the Merkaba for manifestation. You do not have to consider yourself in partnership. That's one of the takeaways of Flying Rainbow Lasagna. It is a partnerless dance. So some dances require a partner, like the waltz. We must waltz with our friends, like you don't waltz around on your own. But some dances, like the Watusi, you can do on your own. You don't have to have a partner, but it's always more fun to dance with others at a dance party. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a partnerless dance. And I offer this as hope that, like, because I know there's all these things. First, there are cultural programs that are about how, like, if you're a woman, you're like, I'm a princess and I'm waiting for Prince Charming. You know, like, there's all those types of fantasies. And if you're a male, then sometimes males are also similarly expecting, like, the woman of my dreams will fulfill my every need and will make me sandwiches. This is not that type of a thing. And then there's even in the New Age world, this whole idea of twin flame stuff, which, like, you got yellow caution flags on the whole twin flame stuff. The whole idea that you need someone else, your opposite sex partner, to be completely whole and fulfill you is, like, not what this moment of transformation is all about. As I was using the example of embers that have been embers of consciousness that have been held alive for a very long time, and now they're ready to burst forth into a bonfire. You don't need a husband or a wife or a physical partner in order to achieve those things. That's pretty big. So, like, I'm not trying to dash anybody's hopes of romantic fulfillment. Having a really loving romantic connection and procreative partnership in this world right now is one of the most badass, wonderful, miraculous things you can do, because there's so many experiences or examples of unhealthy relationships, exploitative sexual relationships, people who should not be procreating together, babies that are being made that are not, you know, the right offspring in any way, and all of that bad music of the sexual world is going on. If you can do it the right way, and you can make actual, like, beautiful music between two people who actually have bodies, that is a fantastic achievement. So I'm not saying that everybody should be celibate, you should never look for that type of partnership. It can be very beautiful, but there's a lot of unhealthy stuff that's going on in our world right now that makes it very hard to do that. So I want everybody to know that your spiritual fulfillment does not rest on whether or not you find Mr. or Ms. Right, whatever your version of that is. Nor does it require any kind of interdimensional or alien sex partner. Like, that's big. I had to kind of learn that people are like someone's getting it on with an alien or whatever, or they think that they are. Like, you don't need any intermediary. You need, for Flying Rainbow Lasagna, the partnerless dance, yourself and the sun and the stars. And I say this is partnerless because the truth is, spoiler alert, you are the stars. The sun is you. You are a part of the sun. So I'm going to get into that in level 2. So let me get through the rest of these questions. Then Dominic has awesome work of his own that I would like for him to share. So I think this is going to be a good moment in the presentation. So let me just go through. Pedro is agreeing, no clones, no freezing, and no upgrade to robot body. Definitely none of those things. First of all, don't freeze your head. Don't cut off your head and freeze it and you think you're going to be revived sometime in a million years. No, and that's also a horrible way of, like, pressing pause on your ascension or metamorphosis or transformation. It's like, oh, I'd love to go into a non-physical state, but you chose to cryogenically freeze my head when I was alive, and now I can't do it. Like, it's just a horrible, horrible life choice. And what was the other one? Definitely no on the robot body. There's nothing that can be manufactured that can in any way supersede the complexity, function, and potential of these bodies that we have. And although many people experience disease and degradation in the present format, which is why I understand that people are like, no, the cells are a prison and we don't like to be here and everything like that. It's not supposed to be that way. So this is running a completely aberrant program. People are like, I hate my computer. It's because your computer is infected with viruses. There's nothing wrong with your computer. Let's get the aberrations out and you can have a much better, more comfortable experience. Sorry, I have dog hair on my nose. They're figuring out how many electrons are in various different things. So I don't have the information available to me, so I apologize on that. Pedro says, so when is it okay to use the Merkaba to travel? For something 100 miles away, for travel to another country or to another world? My basic answer to that is, if you can buy an ordinary mundane ticket to get there, it's not worth it to use your Merkaba to go there. So, like, if I want to go to Pasadena, I can buy a train ticket to go to Pasadena. I don't have to Merkaba my way on over there. But how about 10,000 years ago? I want to visit 10,000 years ago. That would be appropriate because I can't buy just a regular train ticket to go there. Or how about, I want to visit, you know, a far distant star system or a far distant galaxy. Again, Merkaba more appropriate because I've already given you my tirade against space diapers. Like, you're not supposed to have a clank metal spaceship and wear space diapers as you go through space and eat your toothpaste tubes full of food. You're supposed to be able to just go there. So that's the whole idea, that this is achieving a different level of capacity to connect with others. And also when you get to that level, let me just drink a little bit more, your value system changes, and what you think is cool and fun and necessary also gets refined. So you're not going to be like, oh, let me Merkaba so that I can do personal self-aggrandizement, or so that I can oppress others, or, you know, those are all like low-level ego desires. And when you start to get into these levels of virtuosity, it's like, wow, I have this amazing thing that I can do, or wow, I have this amazing thing that I can do. What do I want to do with it? Do I want to just, you know, like screw people over and steal from them, or do something that's bad or wrong? Or do I want to try to like make the best music possible? Like clearly you start to understand the value system when you get refined to this level is you want to work with the time field, make the best music you possibly can, be alive in the most vibrant way you possibly can, and the longest way you possibly can. So Joelle says, Aurora, do you think that there will come a time on the planet when things get really rough that we will all need to use the Merkaba to travel? We'll get into this. She goes on, there are so many earth changes happening now that is getting more and more intense as the years go by. You've all already done it. Dun, dun, dun. Spoiler alert. Okay, guys, remember back in January of this year, 2018, there was a fake missile that got shot at Hawaii. On this timeline, it was a fake missile, but on many other timelines, it was a real missile that caused real nuclear devastation and real loss of life and real disruption on profound levels on our society. And all of us, everybody who's on this timeline, where you think of that as a fake missile, we all spontaneously got in our Merkabas and let me just put down my water. Turned the steering wheel of our flight through time and went on to a different timeline. And we experienced that as, oh, it was a glitch. It was just a mistake. That's Deus ex machina, which literally means the hand of God reaches out and changes the story. And that's used traditionally, like in Greek plays and everything, in the ancient world, it was used as a plot device. Like if everybody in the story blah, 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 and they all get their heads cut off, and everyone's lying on the stage with, their heads cut off and blood is squirting out of their necks. What are you supposed to do? Like, how do you fix that story? How do you fix that narrative? So the answer in these ancient plays was Deus ex machina. The hand of God reaches out and sets everybody upright, puts their heads back on their shoulders, sweeps up all the blood, and then says, action, you're back in the game. And that is what we all experienced. So I am telling this to everyone, not so that you will freak out, or not so that you will feel so destabilized in your world, like, am I alive? Am I dead? What's going to happen? And also, I want to get rid of people's fear and insecurity. I want you to know that you have all of the capacities inside of you that you need to run this marathon. And of course, I'm speaking to you, big people in this class. I'm not speaking to people that are totally unconscious, genetically modified corn chip eaters while they're watching their TV or drinking their beer or whatever. And, the people that are in this class are, what I'm trying to say is, it doesn't matter how many songs you have memorized. You in this class are all adequate musicians because you have the capacity to hear the music and to innovate and play your own song. Those qualities are what is needed. So please lay to the side any concerns, like if you're in your music or your art class and you're like, am I good enough? Am I good enough? You are good enough. You are good enough. And that also means like, yeah, you make mistakes and then you have to admit to your mistakes, erase them, fix them. I make mistakes in my paintings and I sit, after I do a big painting or whatever, if I'm in the painting process, I stare at it and I'm like, where's the mistakes? Like I literally spend a lot of time looking what's symmetrical, what's not symmetrical, where do I put this in the wrong spot? And if I made a mistake, I scrape it off, or I paint over it, or I white it out, or I go over it. I do whatever I have to do to fix it. So you don't have to be perfect. Don't allow that to make you feel blocked up or fearful or whatever. Know that you have the inner proclivities. Darling, you have the ruby slippers. That's all that you need. And you will be in the moment. So this is everybody. Lots of people have fear or anxiety about their moment of death. What we're really doing with these Merkaba transformative tools and Flying Rainbow Lasagna transformative tools, we're transcending death, meaning that instead of being on a timeline where we're going slanty and going to hit the membrane of death, we are able to steer our ship and I want to say align with, not face with, but align with that real possibility of who we're supposed to be. That's the sweet strudel of freedom. So we have all died like 10,000, 10 million times. We've died a countless number of times, and we keep on getting reinserted. And we keep on living in this period of grace that's not meant to be a period of endless torture. Like if you're being killed and then endlessly reinserted and you never get anywhere, that's torture. But what if you actually become empowered, like through the Merkaba and the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and in level 2 I'll teach you all about transforming the skin of this into different number combinations. You're essentially doing higher dimensional math, and you might not even know it, but that's what you're doing when you learn how to keep on going and not have to die. You learn how to continue your consciousness. You do the right combinations of events. So each one of us has the capacity. I think it was Nicole. She's in this class, and I'm connected with her on Facebook. I talk with a lot of people, so I don't always remember who told me what, so I apologize for that. But Nicole told me about how she was driving down the road, and there was like a person that was swerving into her lane, and they should have collided. Her car and that other car should have collided, and she would have been dead on the highway. But instead, she Flying Rainbow Lasagna did something that would be considered amazing or impossible or highly unlikely, and the car went through her car, like superimposed itself upon her car, but did not actually hit her car, and then she found herself safely in a neighboring lane. Like, these are the types of spontaneous transformations that are possible. You don't have to die. You can switch on to a different timeline. And each one of us, when you're faced with that moment, you don't have to be afraid. It's like you will know the notes to play. She spontaneously knew the notes to play to get not on that death timeline, but onto the good timeline where she made it to her destination and continues to live and be happy and vital. So what is the rest of you? Okay, but so the Earth changes. So let's say, hey, there was a version of what's going on this reality where the Helena slump did fall into the ocean and cause a giant tidal wave that swamped the west coast. This was like one of the concerns that was going on with the active volcano and the geothermal plant over on the large island of Hawaii. Clearly that hasn't happened. I'm not saying that you're insane to be concerned about that. I'm saying it's like, let's say you're walking a tightrope. You can die if you go over that way. You can die if you go over that way. Don't go over that way. Go down this way so that you don't die. And that's walking the tightrope. It's going up that central column of consciousness where you don't fall onto one side and experience metabolic death, and you don't fall onto the other side either. So there are an endless number of ways to die every day, from simple traffic accidents to, developing diseases, to maniacs with machetes that want to chop off your head, to things like giant geopolitical wars, thermonuclear war that would destroy everyone, that we are all constantly avoiding those deaths. Like, look, we've been here having a lovely chat for about an hour, avoiding death successfully for a whole hour. Like, that's what we're doing, and we just keep on avoiding death and avoiding death. So I allay your concerns. You are good enough. You have the tools inside of you. When your moment comes to play your solo, when you're like, oh, like, it's time, the car is coming down the highway, it's time, like, are you gonna die and smash up, or are you gonna go to another timeline? It's like, time for you to shine. Play your little melody, like you've been practicing. You can do it. You have the music inside of you. You will be able to do the music appropriately. And we, as a planet, I'm pointing to my little picture over there over my shoulder, we've already been doing this. Because the planet doesn't want to die. The planet herself does not want to be environmentally degraded and toxified and radiated. And I know we're talking just not only about the biosphere, but also about real profound transformations, like on a geological level, that humanity could, if Large Hadron Collider or something like that tried to destabilize Earth's magnetic field, or some level of destruction on that scale. Earth doesn't want that. Earth keeps on going from the side peripheral death timelines for the planet to the central core timelines of the planet. So everybody doesn't want to die, and everybody wants to stay alive and continue consciousness. I'm done with what I need to say. I want to give an opportunity to Dominic so that you can share there. So let me go to this picture. There you go. That should now show up full screen on my recording. And let me unmute you, because I would love for you to say, there you go. There, Dominic's unmuted.
Can
And
you hear
I'm
me?
not going to talk at all. You talk, so I'm not going to talk. You talk so that there's no echo. I'd love
Oh,
to
can
see
you hear
you talk.
me? Yeah, you can hear me. Yeah. Oh, good. Right. I had to make all these models to get my head around. I don't know if you can actually see these little negative spaces I've represented with. Yeah, good.
They're just like this. They're wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. They were Christmas decorations. This is I've got a spindle torus with the 4 balls. I literally had to do this to get my head around what was happening. I made a nice little chakra, but I don't know if you can actually see this. There's actually one inside a ball I done as well. Yeah, but because I was concerned about the earthquakes, and no one knew why the earthquakes tracked or anything like that. So I decided to investigate. So I mapped all sorts of different places on the globe, and when I did, I was doing all sorts of places that I just found, like volcanoes and this sort of thing. And I found that the Earth's chakras are like this. So a spindle torus. Can you see this? Yeah. A spindle torus, the energy comes up. And about here is where the energy would hit into the Earth. And if you look at North America, so the energy comes around here and it enters the Earth quite near you, just near the Gulf of Mexico. And it comes around here. These converge about 500 to 600 feet under the ground. So this area here is dug out as this positive enters the floor. Here is the central convergence, if you like. I suppose this would go round and that one. But as they converge, they swap. And as you say, another one will come out, like so. But as this comes round, it's created the positive. This side has created the positive. That's the negative, and that's the negative. But it goes throughout the entire planet. And it's all a yin yang. The entire planet is one yin yang. One side is water, one side is land, pretty much. Here is where Australia would be. So this is kind of this side's yin yang, and the other side is Australia. But I've got a weather app, it's called Null School, and you can actually, well, I don't know if you can actually see where it spirals in the center of that chakra. You can see as it comes round, you can see where this one goes, and you can see where, like, the Caribbean Sea is dug out by that energy. And I've looked everywhere, and it is all over the planet. Literally every single line on the planet, when it switches direction, it switches polarity, just like you say. And I could never have done this without you, without your advice. But one of the things, like this, sorry, jump around, this line here comes out, and here is, I don't know if you can see this is called the Richet structure in Mauritania. That is the point where the energy actually goes into the ground. I found this via these lines. Literally, it's all over the planet. All over the planet. When you look at French Polynesia, it follows the line of the positive. But this is the negative yin yang. So you can't have land here. So it just put a little bit of a raised thing. But I've tracked the entire planet, and it's true. Wherever I look, you can just see it. I've got, oh, the amount, I mean, when you look on here, you can see the lines and the swirls. This swirl is the one coming off of the bottom of Africa, and they swirl around. So literally, you only need one pulse, and it will go around the entire world like 100 times. But there's constant pulses coming off the top, constant. So when we get a deep earthquake, all of these deep earthquakes are these points. And when you look at this yin yang, Yellowstone's the kind of how can I say, the dot on the yin yang, and these mountains here is the dot on that yin yang. So it's not that they're bad; they are the kind of the representation of the outer cone of the energy, I suppose, if you know what I mean. But I only found this out like 3 or 4 days ago, so I had to make all these to try and understand it. But yeah, I couldn't have done that without you. But this actually proves spirituality in physical form. It shaped the planet, and it's proven. You can actually see how it shaped the planet. This is physical proof of spirituality and chakras. I actually found this with this model. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, very, very well done, Aurora. Very well done. You educated me anyway. But I'll let you carry on. But yeah, because I'll just tell you one thing.
Yeah.
That Fiji and Hawaii, were the two for the other side. Right. You know, so it's like they're all everything is related, and everything just spirals. The more and more I look, the more and more are there. So yeah, I think you're right. Reality changes. I think that all of those things weren't there when I've been looking before, and now there's just swirls all over the world. Everywhere I look, it's like, yeah, everywhere. But I think you can see these patterns are not just weather. It's lines of energy. Britain. In fact, your energy comes round by you, polarizes, I guess, changes, and so the energy, I'm second or third hand in England from your exact energy. So yeah, it comes round here, up here, and then it just cradles the UK up here. But yeah, this is, as you can see, I got that far and then it just got a bit messy, so I had to I'm sure you've been there. Yeah.
Yes, but I can totally relate.
Yeah. And also when I was doing this, I realized that it's exactly the same as the ley lines.
Yes.
Pretty much. The ley lines are so accurate. And yeah, it's this theory, I'm all over geologists at the moment, because this actually proves spirituality. If they agree with this and they find this out, they can't disagree with chakras. They can't disagree with spirituality, can they?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, we might win soon, eh? Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, I'll let you get back to your lesson. Thank you for letting me do that, by the way, because yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Dominic, thank you so much for sharing your own work and your own, like journey of understanding. Yes, I can totally relate to building crazy models out of pipe cleaners, and that's like a really good way of thinking. So I would encourage everyone like you to do those types of visualizations and cutting paper and gluing it together and everything. And yes, beautiful representation of that basic truth that Earth has chakras or energy centers, and we are little fractal microcosmic, inhabitants of Earth. So there's this huge connection between what we are doing in our bodies our health, our vitality, and our flight through time, literally the events of your life, and how that's affecting Earth. Like, this is how, and I'm agreeing with you also so much, Dominic, on the idea that weather patterns are not just stupid weather patterns. They're not just dumb swirling clouds or dumb swirling things in the ocean, that they are the physical manifestation of these swirling vortices of energy that are going on. So all of this in order to say, what happened with the fall of consciousness in Atlantis? That also was a fall of like geological transformation of the surface of the earth. That's because humanity's chakras or energy centers got wibble wobbled, and that absolutely affected the entire planet. So all of this in order to say, like, we're connected to one another, like Dominic was pointing out, what is happening energetically where I live, and how those figure eights travel on Earth's surface and then are then affecting where he lives, or, you know, we're affecting other people in far distant places. That there's all this interconnectivity in people that live at the same time and even across time. So we are now understanding and exploring greater levels of personal responsibility, because if what I'm doing here is then going to be emitted and circulated all around our entire world, or into deep antiquity and into the future, then we begin to understand, wow, what I'm doing and thinking actually matters, and what other people are doing and thinking actually matters, and what each of us are doing with our bodies and maintaining our health and vitality with our bodies matters to the planet. And the big one is, so wherever we have toroidal structures, we can have flying rainbow lasagna structures, as each one of us, remember I said you own your molecules, right? This is what you're allowed to play and experiment with. Each one of us that's doing flying rainbow lasagna, the planet herself is doing flying rainbow lasagna. Like, we're affecting and adding to her dance and her music, and she's reflecting that back to us. That we become like equal dance partners in this beautiful exploration. And that's what I was trying to say. Like, Earth, the planet, doesn't want to die. Earth doesn't want to be degraded. Earth, the planet, is an incredible musician and artist. Like, if you've ever seen, you know, unspoiled natural places where there's amazing rock formations and amazing clouds and the sound of the birds, like, everything is beautiful. It's a beautiful art project that's been horribly degraded, but Earth really wants to art conservators that look at, like, you know, painting that's all in horrible condition with mold, and they like gently retouch everything and they make it beautiful again. That's what we can do. That's what Earth can happen. So Gallus is something right down here. Oh, Salu is agreeing with the swirling energy. So it's like it's wonderful work. It's just good confirmation. Gallus says, I thought it happens to the Earth then us. That's a good question. My understanding is that it's both. It's happening at the same time. This is like the birth pains. You know, they're not just affecting the mom. They're not just affecting the baby. They're both part of what's happening. You know, when babies get squeezed through their opening, it puts tons of pressure on their brain. Like, it's it's a lot of pain for them, little infant coming out too, as well as for the mom that has to accommodate all of that. So it's duress for our planet. Our planet is like, I'm giving birth. This is really hard. It's hard for us, the little infantile consciousnesses that are now, we're exiting that flat plane and coming into a higher dimensional reality. Our heads are being squeezed too. And how do diamonds form? Under great pressure. So I think that's a good note for me to end on. I'm not ending the entire class. I'm just going to stop the recording for level 1. I'll get to your question. Oh, Joelle is saying, wow, Dominic, that was mind-blowing. Thank you. Is that on Google Earth where you can see the weather streams? Yeah, I'm sure it would be great to know the exact website where you can see the flow of water and wind that's going around the planet. And Gala also says, thank you, Dominic. Yeah, I have to make stuff to understand it too. It's visual thinking. I think that that's a very effective thing. Some of these concepts are very challenging, and it's hard to just look at them as line drawings. So yeah, when I was exploring the flying rainbow lasagna very early on, when I was here, like the 2002 and 2003, I made lots of paper models. And what I ended up doing was just tearing the pages out of my notebook that I had been writing on and folding them into cones and taping them together and cutting them apart with scissors and putting them back together. And sometimes it looks messy or, you know, whatever, like, you know, it's not very sophisticated, but it's the process of figuring things out. And then once you figure it out, then you polish everything together. So those are very sophisticated pipe cleaners that are being used in order to explore profound truths of the cosmos. So thank you very much for sharing your work and your understanding. I'm going to just end the recording for right now and move on to level 2. Level 2 is going to be all about basically that transformation that we're talking about. transforming the membrane of death, the skin of the torus, the events that end our consciousness into a new song that is how to continue our consciousness and not have to die. So stay tuned for level 2. Thank you very much.